This video series is called The Gift of the Nile. We're going to be looking at the culture of ancient Egypt. This is not going to be on take 3. This video series is dealing with ancient Egypt. It is called The Gift of the Nile. Now, this is not a historical breakdown of ancient Egypt, but more of a cultural exploration. But before we do that, we need to take an overview of ancient Egypt. With ancient Egypt, you first must understand that this is a culture that lasted over 3,000 years. That is a long time. To put that in perspective, that's over 800 years longer than the Chinese culture, over 1,000 years longer than Christianity has been in existence. And the Egyptian culture reached its high point, and ended before Western civilization even became a glimpse on the historical radar. It is far longer and larger than Western civilization, and hit its high point and ended well before Western civilization that we now know of and is so prominent today even existed. So in terms of history, this is a huge, majorly impacting cultural movement that has shaped the Middle Eastern and European societies today. You can trace many roots of our language, culture, religion back to the influences of the Egyptian society. Now, the Egyptian society was shaped by the Nile River and the Sahara Desert. The Nile River in particular was extremely important. This was the life source of Egypt. And this was a river that was calm, that was navigable, meaning that you could sail boats along it. It was fertile, as we will find out, and it was amazingly predictable. It flooded and receded from floods like clockwork. You could bet what time of year it was going to flood, then it would drop off the really rich, fertile soil, and then you knew exactly when it was going to recede with very little variation. All of this made the Nile and the Nile River Valley extremely easy to farm and to set up irrigation to then water your plants and farming. So easy that you could literally throw down the seed, let your oxen stamp and trample over it, and you would most likely have plants by the next harvest season. It was that simple. Thus, they had a lot of free time, and as we'll see, they put that free time to good use. The history of Egypt is broken down into 3 kingdoms. The first kingdom is the Old Kingdom. This is really the glory period of Egypt. This is where we get the pyramids. This is where we get the Sphinx. This is where they develop the idea of pharaohs. They unify the Nile River for the first time, and much of what we think of and consider as Egyptian or ancient Egyptian comes from the Old Kingdom. There's the Middle Kingdom, which is where the Old Kingdom had died off because of a drought. This is where a group of outsiders come in and more or less rebirth or reinvigorate this idea of Egypt. They merge the old Egyptian gods with some new gods, and they revitalize Egyptian culture. The Middle Kingdom ends up dying off a couple hundred years later because of another drought. And then there was the establishment of the New Kingdom, which is best known for its attempt at empire building. You have kings that are following in the mold of the other Middle Eastern cultures and trying to conquer huge areas of land, and this kingdom will end up ending because of the Assyrians, the Persians, and eventually being conquered by Alexander the Great and the Romans, and really end ancient Egyptian culture as we know it. And Egypt will spend the next couple hundred years being ruled over by various kings, various kingdoms, eventually the Europeans before they earned their independence around the time of World War II. The next videos are going to address things like Egyptian language, the Egyptian buildings, their religion, and other key important aspects of their society.